Now we're moving on to deadlifts, and this is my favorite deadlift accessory exercise that I perform. It's one of those ones that kind of just fixes every single part of the deadlift. Before I do my deadlifts, I'm going to give you a bit of a recap on my rehabilitation. If you didn't know, 2 weeks ago from today, I tore my quadricep attempting a 270 kilogram squat. And the last few weeks, I have been in a bit of pain, so my squat work is now my killing two birds with one stone. It's my warm-up for my deadlift session. Last session, I was only able to squat 80 kilograms for sets of 5, so the plan is to do 100 kilograms for 3 sets of 5. The way that I do it is if the first set is fine, I might add a little bit of weight, but I don't know yet. So this is going to be my first set. It should be kind of pain-free. But my quadricep, great news, it's getting a lot better and not ready for heavy squats yet. But in that time, the way that I do this is squats are a great warm-up because it's not very heavy. Squats are a great warm-up for my deadlifts. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. This is actually my main quad rehab work, but it's a great warm-up for my deadlift session. So first set, high bar squats. I'm choosing high bar with elevated heels because that targets the muscle. So when it comes to rehabilitation, there's always different rules depending on the injury, but for minor muscle tears, I like to target the exact muscle instead of avoid it. So the way that I target it is high bar squats with elevated heels to make me use the exact muscle that I'm trying to repair. So set 1, 5 reps, 100 kilograms. Great. That felt better than what 80 kilograms felt a couple of days ago. So therefore, I'm gonna slowly add weight. So I'll do 110 next and see how that feels. I think that's good enough for me to add weight and do 120 kilograms on the next set. I'll tell you something else that I'm focusing on is when I squat, when everything is fine and I'm trying to lift heavy, I'm a little bit more explosive on the concentric portion of the lift. So I push really fast. So right now, I'm not pushing as fast. So that decreases the amount of tension being placed on the muscle. So if I was to push really fast, it's actually 110 kilograms, but it's actually a lot heavier when if it's a very light weight and you jump as high as you can, that's equivalent to a lot more weight than whatever you're actually lifting. So that's something else that I always do if I'm trying to rehabilitate a specific muscle, is when I do my contractions, I'm not as forceful as what I normally would be when I'm actually training for strength. So yeah, I'm good enough to do 120 kilograms and that'll be my last set. Good. That felt equal to or slightly less painful than what 80 kilograms felt like a couple of days ago. So I'm very happy with that. 3 sets of 5 are done, and now I'm moving on to deadlifts. Now we're moving on to deadlifts, and this is my favorite deadlift accessory exercise that I perform. It's one of those ones that kind of just fixes every single part of the deadlift. If you have a weakness off the floor, performing it off the deficit increases that range of motion, overloads that range of motion, and therefore gets it stronger. But something else that a lot of people don't really think about is having a strong deadlift from the floor strengthens the movement all the way through, even up until the lockout. One of the biggest things that I used to be a culprit of is failing deadlifts at the lockout, and a lot of people assume, what's the last part of a deadlift? It's hip extension, right? So we need to strengthen the hip extensors, which are mainly the glutes. So a lot of people do a lot of glute work, and then or even rack pulls. And then they come back to the deadlift off the floor and they fail at the exact same point. So why is this? Well, if you're doing rack pulls, you're starting in a different position to what you would if you're off the floor, what happens when you're deadlifting off the floor and you're being pulled out of position, this is where you'd start a rack pull from, but you wouldn't start like this. That's how you look when you're pulled out of position, and then you fail the lockout. Now, your thing is, a lot of people blame it on the glutes, but the glutes have done their job. What hasn't done their job is the upper back strength to maintain that position. So what happens is the hips are locked out, but now we have to lock out the spine erectors, the thoracic extensors, to stand with a straight back. So what's the solution to this is do not get pulled out of position from the floor. How do we do that? Is we increase the strength from the floor. And this is my favorite exercise, the pause deficit deadlift. So let's have a look. So the size of the deficit, I'm choosing a higher deficit today. And I would say as you get closer to competition, you want to be doing pure specificity. But the deficit that I would use for most people is a smaller deficit. So just a little bit. And the objective is to deadlift, so lift the weight just the height of the deficit. So for this one, it's a little bit longer. But anyway, so you lift it just the height of the deficit, pause here, and then stand, right? So the reason why we go just the height of the deficit is because when I deadlift off the floor without the deficit, that's the exact range of motion that I'm strengthening, right? So you pause just the height of the deficit. The next thing, so it's increasing time under tension at that exact point where we want to strengthen. The next thing is the execution of that. So there's one of the biggest problems, one of the biggest reasons that people fail their deadlift at lockout or they get pulled out of position is they don't know how to stay tight off the floor. A lot of times this comes from ripping the bar off the floor, being too aggressive, which is something that's widely taught is bang, grip and rip technique, which has its merits. However, the downfall is if you don't have an understanding of maintaining tension off the floor, that's what causes you to be pulled out of position. So the execution here, the way that I like to teach people this is the way that we lift the bar off the floor isn't with aggression. So don't rip it off by pulling it off the ground. The way that we initiate the movement is by exaggerating, you've heard of the term, take the slack out of the bar. We exaggerate the way that we do that. So watch me now. So the way that I get into this position is I pull my armpits, so I reach my arms down and then armpits towards my pelvis. So reaching down does a lot of great things. It makes the arms longer and you travel less distance. But when you reach down, you should do it at home while you're watching. Reach down and you'll feel these muscles around here. You'll probably feel your pecs, but also your lats are contracting. So that's a lat action, but then also armpits towards the pelvis is another, so that's shoulder joint extension. So that's another action of the lats. Having your lats on in a deadlift does two great things. One, that's a very strong muscle to stabilize your core. Two, that action keeps the bar, some people the barbell, when your lats aren't on, the bar drifts away from your body. That's a very weak position, increases risk of injury, and it increases the risk of not being strong in the deadlift. So keeping the bar close to your body with your lats, strong core, and it keeps the bar in the exact right position that it needs to be in, which is where? In line with your midfoot. So the barbell, that's the center of mass. The strongest position is for it to be in line with the center of your base of support. The base of support is your foot, so the center of that is your midfoot, and that's where we want to keep a heavy deadlift. And a lot of people fail because they don't have the lats on and it drifts away from that point. Okay, so watch me closely. The way that I get this off the floor is increase my tension through the body and take the slack out of the bar. Pause in that position, and then it's about push the world away is the cue that I like to consider. So it's a push, not pull. All right, so watch this. Bar in line with my midfoot, normal deadlift setup, armpits to pelvis, reach my crown of the head to the ceiling, big breath. Now it's time to add more weight. The beauty of those squats is it takes me a lot longer to warm up for the squats, and I've spent a lot of time there, so now I feel like I'm pretty warm. Now I can take pretty big jumps for this. So I'll be going, the first set was 70, next one 120, and the idea is to go red plate, up until I feel like it's a good start point for the program. So 120, I'll do 1 rep. Reach down. So long arms, I'm not just relaxing my arms anymore. I used to say relaxed arms, now I say don't relax it. Reach down, actively reaching down. felt good. Chalk up my hands. And this, I think, is going to be my last warm-up set. So the numbers that I thought of coming into the session was around the 260 mark. So this is 220. It's feeling comfortable, but we'll see. So this is going to tell me what my next or my top set is going to be. I'd like it to be 260. Reese would like it to be 270. He gets upset because if it's 260, the next color is blue, which he thinks is upsetting, which I agree with. But I also have to be real. So remember, with my programming, I like to start week one of the program conservative enough to allow room to be able to progress from week to week. So I think, let's just say 260 is my start point. Next week will be 265, and the week after will be 270. As opposed to, let's just say I go really, really heavy today and I go straight for 270 and I'm grinding out. I've left no room to progress. I could be speaking too soon and the 260 might lead me there, but we'll see. Last warm up. It feels nice, actually. It's the first time I've deadlifted like a conventional deadlift using my quadriceps for the last few weeks because, you know, the quadricep tear. So I've been doing stiff-legged deadlifts. So it's kind of nice to be using my leg drive again. And yeah, 220 for one. I think 260 for a double as my top set today is reasonable. And I think I've got it. Let's go. Happy, can't you see? Good. So although I'm happy, but Reese isn't because there's a blue instead of a red.
I'm relatively happy.
I think it was the right choice. I think that was tough, but not so tough that I can't progress next week. I think that I will have 265 next week and then 270 the week after. And that's what I'm going to be doing, is a top set with some back down work. And my back down work, I'm going to continue with stiff-legged deadlift. So my next set is going to be 2 sets of higher rep stiff-legged deadlift. The idea of top set back down set is when I'm deadlifting heavy, it's a very high RPE, and if I do multiple sets of that, that's when it interferes with the recovery for the other sessions in the week. But whenever I do just one top set, I can keep that at a very, very high RPE. I would say that was about an 8.5 RPE, which means I had like maybe definitely 1 more rep in the tank, maybe 2, don't know. If I didn't give a shit about technique and wanted to round my back and grind, and if there was money on the table, I probably would have been able to do 2 more reps. But I think that was a perfect start point. Next up, a few back down sets of a low RPE, Romanian deadlifts. Yeah, I'll see what weight that is. I've got to beat 200 for 8, so it's either going to be 210 for 8. I think that should be the number, which is also upsetting, Reese, because that means it's 3 reds and 1 blue to do 210. Can you just face yourself in the mirror and shake your head exactly how you're doing it? This is what Reese was doing while I was saying 210. I'm kind of doing that inside as well. I agree. But it is what it is. Anyway, stay tuned. Let's see. Maybe I won't even be that strong. All right, now, as I always do, I like to look back. I'm always recording my sets, especially my top set, to critique myself, because as much as I would love to be perfect, I am absolutely not. So I felt like the first repetition was really nice technique. I'm looking at it going, like, look at the head position. Something I like to cue for the head position is, for me and for most people, find a spot on the floor about 3 or so meters in front of you and keep your eyes on that. Right? Now the body follows the eyes. If you're looking up too high, you'll squat deeper. So it encourages a more upright torso, but that's not how deep you want to be. You don't want to be upright in a deadlift, right? So looking down too much, I find, makes your hips come up too high and it makes it too much back. So for me, I'd say that's a sweet spot, reaching the crown of the head to the ceiling. Find a spot about 3 meters on the floor in front of you. Now this is what I feel like happened. First rep, I did that. Now, normally I say, stay on that spot. But for me, my deadlift floor is warped. And if I don't drop it in the right spot, it'll roll off in a funny direction. So I broke my rule and I changed my focal point and I looked down to make sure I dropped it in the right spot so that I could pick it up from the right spot. And then I'm looking at it going, unfortunately, my eye position there, I didn't pick it up. I maintained the momentum of the set and I kept my eyes down, which caused my hips to be a very slightly higher position on the second rep. And I feel that it was more on my back and less on my legs. Right? So the technique between the first and the second was not that different, not that bad. I'm very happy with it. But objectively, next week, my focus is to reset, take a little bit more time for the second rep and make sure I bring my focal point back to that spot, 3 meters on the floor in front, so that my hips can be in the right position and it'll be a little bit more consistent. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that technique. There was no hitch. It was a pretty smooth lockout, very good back position. And we're good. One more thing, I don't know if you recorded from the side, something that I do with my brace. I don't say straight back. I don't want it to be pulled into a rounded position like a fishing rod. But at the same time, like have a look at my brace. Something that I do with my brace is I bring my ribs down. So I take a big breath and push my belly into the belt and then that's my start position, which is not here, which is how I used to be. I used to think you're gonna have a straight back for the deadlift, but that's not very strong either. So I want a rigid back and that's what my goal is. So my brace is here, bang, breathing into the belt, and that's the position that I would like to keep from start to finish. So it's not straight like that, but I consider that to be the strong position for me. Food for thought for you. All right, next up, adios. All right, so the consensus was, don't be a coward, do the 4 red plates, but do 2 less reps. So there was a bit of a trade-off. That was set 1. I'm only gonna do 1 more set. 2 by 6, that's plenty. And then we'll do some back extensions after that. That was a lovely feeling right in the buttock. Good, so sets of 20 now. When I say sets, I mean just one more, so 2 by 20. Will be lovely, and that's my session. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed our session. Include your deficit deadlift with a pause, and you are gonna have a strong deadlift off the floor and a strong deadlift off the lockout. I hope you enjoyed that. Join me next time. See ya.